All right, everybody. So we're going to be talking about some online band instruction ideas that all center around projects that have your students doing some type of role playing, imagining that they are someone other than themselves in the music education world. And so we're going to talk about them imagining themselves as marching band designers, imagining themselves as a concert band director preparing for a concert, and imagining themselves as a band adjudicator, a judge for an organization like in Texas we have UIL, right? And so the idea here is that they can develop empathy, build job skills, and all of this centered around music still and around band in particular. And so these projects, have the potential to be really interesting to your student while also taking and putting them in a different mindset than they're normally in. So hopping right in here, the first thing that I'm going to suggest is allowing your students to design a marching show. So we actually did this project with our students at Eastland during the regular school year. Just to see what they would come up with. And then we recommended these shows and shared them with our marching show designer. And we actually wound up choosing one of the student shows to prepare for this year. And we've actually changed directions since COVID-19 happened. But it was, a really great show. And so you might be surprised what your students come up with. So I gave them a Google Slides template where I basically put together a marching show proposal. And honestly, mine was way worse than what the students came up with. But you want them to come up with a theme. Is it going to be something like the sounds of nature or something really specific like, they might come up with a superhero theme based on movies or one of the ones that our students came up with was a Western theme that was like a spaghetti Western or traveling the Oregon Trail, that type of stuff. They then immediately pick music selections because everything else is going to be based off of those music selections. I like for them to have YouTube links so that you can actually hear the song that they're proposing. They then do a design board where they have pictures of color guard flags, props, marching tops. They go to the websites of places that sell these, and they look for things off the shelf that would fit in with their design, just to give you an idea of what it might look like. But it also has them exploring these websites and seeing the potential for different flags and props and marching tops. And then finally, they do a show summary where they write up, at the beginning of the show, this happens, and then this happens in the middle, and they can describe what order the music selections would be in and any visual things that they think of. And they can go super in-depth or not as in-depth, but that whole proposal can be done inside of a Google Slides presentation, and it winds up being really interesting. I know a lot of my students actually chose like historical events to center a show around. And so there's just a lot of learning to be had there. And you might be surprised. There might be a show that you actually want to see to fruition and produce for your band. Students can be super creative about this type of stuff. So that's one idea. Another idea is to have your students take on the role of being a conductor, being a band director or a community band conductor. And what you do is you give them a prompt. You tell them, you're a middle school band director or you're a college band director, and you give them information about their ensemble. You might tell them, you've got this really, really great euphonium player that could probably handle solo, but the flute section's a little weak. And they have to pick music. And so they go to a website like J.W. Pepper or Penders. They look at the music. They look at the grade levels. They listen to it. And they select music for a program and justify their choice. They might say, well, that euphonium player is so good, I chose this piece to feature him or her, right? And then they can make a program with program notes, off a template or however. And then I think a neat way to end this would be to have your students take and actually record introductions for each song as though they're the master of ceremonies for a concert or the director. And so they introduce the group, and then they could actually record a video, put it on YouTube, and then immediately after that find a YouTube performance of the song so that if someone were to play the playlist, it would play just like a concert. And they can research the history of the songs, and this kind of creates this performance event for their families, for their parents, if they share it with them. And anyway, I just think there's a lot of potential there. So one more idea is to have the students take on the role of an adjudicator, of a judge. And this was actually an idea that was suggested to me by Mike Lunny, a retired director out of Wiley High School in the Abilene area here in Texas. And he said, what if you provided rubrics to the students and they took and they adjudicated band performances from YouTube, or maybe band performances of your school band from previous years. And they would need to fill out the rubrics using good musical language. You could provide for them a glossary of professional terminology. And then the way you might end this is giving students a chance to compare the results. The students might notice that one student gave them a 2 while another gave them a 1, or a higher rating or a lower rating. And there's a lot to learn there about, what people notice and how people's tastes play into these type of things. And I think it creates a real opportunity for your students to learn just about what's subjective and what's objective when it becomes a musical performance question. And so anyway, those are just a few ideas for lesson plans that I think can produce really deep learning that you can do with students even if you're not playing instruments, even if you're entirely online, but that you could also do in person. So anyway, if this was useful for you, let me know. I'm thinking about researching some lesson plan ideas and sharing them like this in the future. This is my email address, and I'm posting this particular slideshow at freemusiced.org/blog if you want to come check it out and download this presentation. And like I said, I hope this is useful for you. Thank you very much.